So what did you miss at Jubilee today? Well, you missed the second Sunday of Lent. And we began by acknowledging that we grieve with our Muslim siblings around the world. We grieve with humanity. We acknowledge that we don't fear when we gather to pray. And that is a privilege. We acknowledge that sometimes those who are different or far away don't seem our concern, and yet we acknowledge today that we are concerned, that we grieve and we love our siblings because of our shared humanity, not our shared faith or the difference in our faith, but because of our shared humanity. We acknowledge that today. We acknowledge our relationship to the land and to the people who have been on the land that we occupy for thousands of years. We acknowledge that sometimes history and the way we tell our stories make it hard for us to be in relationship. We acknowledge that we can do better. We acknowledge that as well with those in the LGBTQ community. We acknowledge that it is sometimes a challenge to be in relationship because it means that we have to grieve. It means that we have to stand up. It means that we have to take action. It means that we have to love, and sometimes it would be easier to not. But that's not who we want to be. It is not who God wants us to be or inspires us to be or empowers us to be. So that's where we started on the second Sunday of Lent. And we heard the story of Abram and needing a sign from God. And then we heard a story that we don't often hear in church. We read from Judges. We heard the story of Gideon. And Gideon, who wanted a sign from God, he wanted a fleece to be damp in the morning while the ground around it was dry. And then when that happened and he could wring so much water of it that it could fill a bowl, he then asked God to make it so that the ground would be covered in dew and yet the fleece would be dry the following morning. And he got that sign too. And in that he knew that God would help him lead his people in battle, although they were outnumbered, although they shouldn't be able to win. He knew that they would. And we wondered about that story and how it seems silly, and yet how it also seems to indicate that God enters into the human condition. We acknowledge that as Christians, that God enters into the human condition in Jesus. In fact, I think it's stories like Gideon that help us become aware of what Jesus is, that Jesus is God entering into the human condition. And we know that because of stories like Gideon. Because it's human to want a sign. It's human to want to be in a relationship, not just the beneficiary of some windfall where God says, I love you and gives us something, but a relationship in which we are back and forth with God. We're able to share our fears and our concerns and our worries, and God enters into the human condition and answers us, even when it seems silly. The same way that we do with our children. Mommy, Daddy, watch me. And we watch again and again. Honey, tell me that you love me. And we tell them again and again. Today we wondered about how God enters into the human condition and what God expects of us. Perhaps simply that as well, that we should enter into the human condition, that we should engage with others, that we should build community, not based on similar or identical values or creeds, but based on humanity, based on need, based on love. That's what we explored on this second Sunday of Lent, and I'm sorry that you missed it, but know that we missed you. And until we see you again, God bless you, and hurry back, we miss you.